everyone, welcome back to another Stitches and Scribbles video. My name is Erin, and for today's Crochet With Me video I'm actually going to be making another version of my Mirkwood shawl. This pattern is available on my Etsy store. I'll show you my other one that I've made real fast. So this is a shawl that alternates between the linen stitch or moss stitch and the granny stitch. I worked this up previously using a yarn cake, and this one was about a 4-weight yarn, so it's pretty bulky, was perfect for winter, but I wanted to make a lighter weight one in a variegated yarn. So for this version, I'm going to be using the Happy Toes sock yarn from Hobbii. This is in color number 1. It is currently only available through their points program, but they have lots of other sock yarns that you could choose from, and you could use any thin weight yarn. This is a number 1 super fine weight. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with crocheting, and you can see the process as I go. Alright, this is how far we've gotten after one skein, and it is 218 yards per skein. I have 6 of them. I am planning on using all of them to make like a really gigantic shawl, but this is more than I was expecting to get. I am using a pretty big hook size. It's a 4.5 millimeter, but we're going to keep going and see how big the shawl gets. Hello again. It's actually several weeks later from the last clip that I filmed, because in the middle of doing my Mirkwood shawl, I actually did the Oscars shawl that you should have already seen by now. It's up on my channel if you haven't. But this shawl, the Mirkwood shawl, has gone with me absolutely everywhere for the past couple weeks, which meant I did not get to film any more clips of it because I was taking it to friends' houses while hanging out or on car trips with me where it's really hard to film, but I did finish the entire shawl. So I ended up using 5 of the 6 skeins of yarn. Let's hold that up a little bit better. I know it'll be hard to see the whole thing in frame, but it's about my wingspan in length. I did, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 sections, each of the 2 stitch types. I have the moss stitch followed by the granny stitch, and it repeats throughout the shawl. Really happy with how this one turned out, but since I forgot to take more clips of the progress for you guys, I figured I'd show you some other versions of the shawl that I've made over the last year or so since I started designing this pattern, because I do still have a couple that are in my personal wardrobe that I actually wear quite a lot. But really like how this one turned out. I had never done it in a variegated yarn before, so I like seeing that this pattern does work with variegated yarn as well as what I had originally intended. So let's kind of do the other 2 in chronological order. The first one I have to show you is made with cotton, so it's a very, very summery shawl. This cotton, let's hold it up the right way, was from Hobby Lobby, and I'll explain why it has that bump at the top in a minute. I don't remember the name of the yarn, but I got it at one of the Hobby Lobby clearance events, and I did use 2 cakes of it, but I know they do still have this yarn in a bunch of colors. It's in their cotton section. It looks like a yarn cake, but it's all one color. It's not striped like yarn cakes are a lot of the time. It's one base color with pops of other colors in it. In this case, this one is like an off-white cream with little flecks of light blue, navy blue, and yellow. And I know I used 2 of these, but I don't think I used the full second one, if I remember correctly. But this was one of the very early versions of the pattern, which is why you can see at the top it does that thing that triangle shawls tend to do, where it creates a bump. So the way I fixed that when I wrote the actual pattern was by adding more stitches to my initial row, which is why the shawl looks almost heart-shaped or V-shaped when you first start it. It's to adjust for that. But I do wear this one quite a lot as a scarf because it's a great neutral color. I also went to a school that has blue and gold as their school colors, so I kind of wear it as a subtle college spirit scarf, if that makes sense. I also later on when designing adjusted the number of rows for each of the sections, so it's a little different in this one than it is in the final pattern version, but still the same idea. I also decided to put tassels in the corners of this version just for a little extra fun. So this is a great summer shawl or lightweight scarf because it's in cotton. And then the other one that I have is actually the version that's photographed in the pattern. So when I created this pattern, I originally wanted it to be for gradient yarn cakes because at the time I had quite a few of them. So this one was actually made with one of the Lion Brand Mandala yarns. I don't remember which one it is. I do know it was one of the baby versions. I think it was called Echo Caves or Echo Lake, something like that, with shades of white, blue, and green. I did use 2 complete cakes for this one, and this is the final version that you will see if you purchase the pattern. But you can see the same alternating stitch patterns, and on this one I ended with a moss stitch section instead of a granny stitch section. This one is really nice and warm for really cold weather. but I love wearing it as a scarf to get all bundled up or as a shawl to kind of keep my shoulders warm. These are especially great for events like weddings or events where you have to get a little dressed up and you know it might be cold. I like to bring a shawl along to make sure I stay warm. That's kind of it for this one. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're interested in purchasing the pattern, the link will be in the description box along with all of my other information. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!